Here at NC State, we pride ourselves as being an innovative institution trying to combat upcoming challenges facing us. And today we're talking about sustainability. So if we take a look at NC State's 2014 energy bill, so to speak, we see that some of our big ticket items are electricity and natural gas, with electricity coming in at almost half of the total consumption of energy and monetary value. To just give some background, fuel oil number 6 is mostly used as like a heating oil, and it's of a much higher viscosity, whereas fuel oil number 2 is most similar to biodiesel. The current facilities that we're talking about today are the Lake Wheeler Farm, which has a variety of animals there, 180 dairy cattle, 80 beef cattle, a little over 1,300 swine, and 4,500 poultry. And then in terms of forests, we have GW Hill, which is a 2,400 acre forest, right down the road in Durham. And then we have Hoseley Forest in Franklin County. That's a 252 acre facility. And then Shake Forest in Wake County is a 300 acre forest. A major issue with the livestock at Lake Wheeler is simply the waste that it produces. There are over 18,000 animals at that facility. That's a lot of animals, and to put it bluntly, that's a lot of poop. We have a few options for what we can do with all this waste. One is just to throw it in a lagoon or a landfill. However, we could also turn all that waste into energy. The two processes that we're talking about today are gasification and aerobic digestion. Gasification uses high temperatures in a controlled environment to produce a syngas, which can later be used and burned just as natural gas. On the other hand, we have aerobic digestion, which uses enzymes to break down organic matter without the presence of oxygen. Here we just have a table comparing the energy output that we could potentially see with gasification and aerobic digestion. And what we see is that anaerobic digestion is where you're going to see the most bang for your buck. It's significantly higher than gasification across the board. Another thing that we can easily see from this graph is that even though we know that there's significantly more poultry than dairy, you're still coming out better off using dairy cattle than poultry or swine. Which makes sense if you think about it. Cows are significantly bigger animals than a pig or a turkey or a chicken. Therefore, they would produce much more waste. And as much as I would love to sit here and say that we should put aerobic digesters on every barn at the Lake Wheeler facility, I just don't think that's realistic. And to give you some background, here's just a slide on the cost of what it would take to install such a facility just for one aerobic digester for, say, the dairy cattle. At the bottom, you're going to see a link to a website that's a study published by the United States Department of Agriculture, so it's a very reliable source, and we see that with our facility, that's going to generate around 1,800 megabytes, and every 1 megabyte, mega BTU is a million BTUs. We're coming in right under $500,000, which is a lot of money when we look at the savings that we're going to see. And for the dairy cattle, we're really only offsetting our natural gas consumption by 0.1%. So that's a pricey situation for really significantly small results. And then if we look at the offset potential for gasification of the dairy cattle, I mean, it's not even really registering as a percent. And that's only natural gas, not even the energy as a whole that we use it here at NC State. So for options for our land, today we're going to be talking about converting sunflower and soybean to biodiesel using a process called transesterification. And we can't use every acre of all the land that state has. We have to save some of it for research and education purposes. So we're proposing that we would take 2,000 acres from GW Hill, 200 acres from Hoseley, and 250 acres from Schenck Forest. Transesterification, just a little background on that, is the reaction of a triglyceride with an alcohol to form esters and glycerol. During esterification, the triglycerols react with an alcohol in the presence of a catalyst, usually a strong alkaline. The alcohol then reacts with the fatty acids to form biodiesel. And another reason why we're talking about transesterification is that it's the most economical way to get biodiesel, and it has a very high yield conversion. So when we compare soybean to sunflower, obviously GW Hill is going to produce the most because, you know, that's tenfold the amount of acres available at the other forest. And we see soybeans coming in right at 1,600 mega BTUs, and sunflowers coming right at 1,200 mega BTUs. So they're kind of neck and neck, soybean being slightly more profitable. And another good thing about this is GW Hill is right in, you know, Durham County, so it's not that far away, and we can assume that transportation costs would be reasonable at best. Then if we look at our offset potential here, again, we're just talking about fuel number 2 because that's what's most easily blended with biodiesel, and you're going to come in at almost 9% for soybean and a little under 6.5% for sunflower. But again, that's still only 6.5% and 9% of just the fuel number 2 usage. And if we look back at what we used last year for fuel number 2, you know, it's really one of the smaller sources of energy that we use here at State. Even though fuel number 2 is not our biggest ticket item, I think using resources like GW Hill for biodiesel production is a really innovative way to, you know, make use of the land we have here at State. And even with dealing with the Lake Wheeler facility, even if it's not offsetting that much, it's still a great option to deal with the waste that, you know, these animals are producing.